Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I have two lovely guests joining me today. We have the Bone Bridger and John Automates, and we're going to do a little Blue Beetle discussion. I'm so happy to have them here, as always. My general thoughts about the Blue Beetle experience is kind of what I wanted to discuss, as well as what I thought about the film. Um, and I can't wait to hear about your opinions on this. My experience at the theater was, as an avid Regal goer, I'm usually there for opening weekends and things like that. And the specific theater that they were showing my Blue Beetle showing in was incredibly small, and it felt very strange. I know Barbie and Oppenheimer have still continued to take over most of the big theaters, but you would think that for something like this, it would be at least a little bit of a larger theater, as well as there was actually no digital poster in front of the theater walking in like normal. So I just kind of feel like with this and the overall marketing campaign that Warner Brothers Warner Brothers put out, that there was just such a lack of anyone caring about this film. So how do you guys feel about this?
I had the same experience. I'm Regal too, and I have a really big Regal theater in terms of movie premieres and stuff. And it felt like it was a sideshow. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't remember any digital ad. And they have a big, I mean, the whole thing is just a wraparound screen. I mean, there's even a slide in there. But the digital part, I don't remember anything with Blue Beetle. I don't remember any like sponsor type things at at the front. I don't know. John, did you have any kind of
I am AMC, and there was no Blue Beetle. There was actually a Paw Patrol poster.
Yeah.
But wow, yeah, I literally just thought about that. Like, yeah, it was Paw Patrol coming out. The theater size itself was a little bit bigger. But other than that, yeah, there wasn't. But then again, that's what the nature of this movie has been. The marketing has been terrible.
It really has, and I wonder if that's it's so shocking because with DC, all their changes, they really want everyone to be on board with the films moving forward. I know James Gunn has kind of backpedaled a bit with what he's going to do with this character, and you would think that like I know they lost a lot of money with the Flash, but you think like, well, maybe they could redeem some of that with this film at least a little bit. But the box office this weekend shows that did not happen at all. So
Not at all. Plus,
Not at all.
James Gunn, apparently James Gunn is saying now it is going to be a part of the DCU again. Like the back and forth is insanity with this man. And I think a lot of people have started to have the idea that had he not done his DC slate, that the films would have done a lot better overall this year. But because he has done it, everybody has this I do not care attitude. And you can't ask people to spend money with an I do not care attitude. Those things don't match.
I agree. I think that was a huge mistake because it caused confusion and it wasn't time. Like you just got hired. Just wait. You don't have to say anything. There's
Not at
all
all.
this coming out. You should say that this is all already on the schedule. When it's done, we will announce our new plan. Because right now, it's so confusing. And for a normal viewer that's not just on YouTube and on Twitter and everything else, it has to be pointless, I feel like. Like a normal person that's like a normal movie going fan, I feel like they'd be like, well, I'll just wait. Like, why go now?
Which sucks because the movie's not bad.
right. Yeah, I agree there. I mean, I went in with low expectations, and this is actually very tied into what James Gunn is now promising. I felt I resonated most with Blue Beetle's character as well as his family. I thought that was done really well, and I think that sometimes is kind of ignored in superhero films, like getting really down to the characters and who they are and their backgrounds in a really just a really organic way. I thought it was really authentic. The stuff that I didn't care for was that it was very copy paste. I love Susan Sarandon, and my goodness, did she look fantastic. She is aging like fine.
Mhm.
The writing for her was very lackluster. I've seen her play villains before, and she's fantastic as an actor, but my goodness, the dialogue was like, who cares? And then I felt that the action scenes were pretty like bland, directorial wise, which was a very, again, stark contrast from the everything else with the family that was really well directed. I will say I do want Blue Beetle to continue in the future of the DC, and I really think if James Gunn had said like, even if the movie doesn't do well financially, like we really want to keep him in the future because he did a really good job, I think. And I don't know how you guys felt about him.
Yeah, acting wise, I mean, he's a good actor. There's no way I would ever be against that. I think that keeping him would be okay, but now the problem with keeping him, I think, is the confusion of, is this movie the truly the first of the era, like claimed? I think that's more of my question mark, because if they do some kind of weird multiverse thing where it's the same actor, I'm okay with that. And I was with you, by the way. The family part, the dad was the best part of the whole movie for me, him and his dad. And I know a lot of people enjoyed the family part, so that's not. But I'm with you. The villain part, she's a better actress than she had a character in dialogue. Like, they did not give her much to work with. I mean, she's good. She's not a bad actress, but that was pretty lackluster.
Yeah.
I don't like the movie outside of the family.
Yeah.
It's like, because the movie feels like they took the best bits of all these other movies and then threw them together, but didn't make them any more creative, or didn't do anything to differentiate, which means one of two things. One, it means, yes, the family's going to get the most attention, and maybe that was the point. Probably not, though. And two, the movie's going to be forgettable, like very, very forgettable, very, very quickly. And so I don't know if you do want a forgettable movie as your lead. People haven't forgotten Iron Man, and we are almost 20 years, or at least 15 years past. Right?
Yeah.
Like that. There are scenes in Iron Man that literally set up things that happened in Endgame. Like, that's how big and how much they were able to connect the MCU was able to connect that. Is James Gunn going to plan on doing something like that with Blue Beetle? When he's been back and forth on saying if it was supposed to be part of it or not, I just don't see it.
Well, this brings me on to another question and thought, because I was for sure, and I know the strike and all that stuff goes into play here. I think now people are kind of saying everything should kind of die down by November, which means you wouldn't have to move Aquaman's release date. Why was there not an Aquaman 2 teaser? I couldn't believe it. There were, the trailers for this movie too, before Blue Beetle, there was like nothing big, and I was shocked there was no DC anything.
I don't think they have it yet. I don't think they're finished.
They may not have anything ready. If those rumors are true, they don't even have they have other versions, but they don't have anything to work with yet for which, if Aquaman 2 gets moved, is that why they're actually moving it? Is it just not done?
Oh my God.
But you can't afford to move it. You legitimately cannot afford to move it. Like, money-wise, cannot afford it. It would be devastating. And you also can't afford to do that to the fan base. You need to finish all of that stuff as soon as possible within the year.
They should have double featured it. These two movies should have come out together. Like, at least make it some kind of event where it's like, I'll go watch the end of the DC.
If it doesn't come out in December, it has to put it on Max.
Yeah.
I don't see the point of releasing it in theaters. Jason Momoa be damned. I just don't.
I think this movie messed up. I'm not advocating for movies to not be in the theaters. I love going to the theaters, but knowing what we know now with the box office reception, there wouldn't be a lot of criticism against this movie if it was streaming, in terms of like, you couldn't say it was a flop. There'd be no way to measure it like that. I feel like they could have protected themselves a little, but
it would also get more viewership that way though too.
I think so too. You have 70 million people that have Max accounts. They, not that I want a push to, like, I didn't hate this experience. It wasn't like I didn't like going to the movies where I felt like my money was wasted, where with Meg 2, I really questioned my life there for a minute. I was like, that's $20. And then of course I spent another like 30 because I have a problem. But like, yeah, I don't know. Aquaman 2 is, I do not understand what's happening at DC. They need to get this over with.
Yeah, and if you guys think maybe it would be better as streaming, maybe they're considering that. I mean, if you think about certain teasers in the past, I remember like I think it was the Dark Knight teaser. and all you saw was the logo and you heard the Joker laughing, I believe. You don't have to do much, you
Right.
know? It's like just a little sprinkle of something to get people excited, and they didn't even do that.
They didn't. They didn't even do Jason Momoa just being Jason Momoa, like
Or
talking to a fish.
Or
Like,
what if they know that if they did put something out, it would bring up negative, and
maybe they know it's
they don't want
coming.
to. Because for I know everybody says all publicity is good publicity. That's not true.
That's not true.
It works in
that's so not
certain
true.
cases for certain people and certain things, but for the most part, that's not true. And so you need, maybe they thought, oh, well, we just don't want anything to take away from, or we don't want any negative things about Aquaman coming up. We don't want to put out a trailer that looks like The Little Mermaid, or even worse than that. And all of a sudden people, like there's all sorts of reasons that they could have decided not to. I still don't think it's finished though, personally.
Wow.
Dang.
And it made me think about the CGI aspect of the Flash being terrible, because the CGI in this was fine. So, I guess they had just spent all of their marketing money away for the Flash, and then they just didn't care that it looked like garbage. So, this one was fine. The fact you guys are even talking, the fact that you think Aquaman 2 wasn't finished is like a nightmare in my brain. Like, it's been so long. And they don't have really anything. What would be the next film that would be after that?
It's a huge gap.
Yeah.
It's for DC. This is it. So like it's
Yeah.
James Gunn stuff. It shouldn't be the same people or teams. But they say that there's multiple versions of Aquaman 2 and they've had to redo it over and over and over. But it makes me wonder about the Blue Beetle. Did they really think this movie would do well at the box office? I think that question is what confuses me, because if they believed that it would, I understand that. But if they weren't aware that it wasn't going to do great, why did you not change something about the release? Like do streaming or do something to try to promote it.
They had to have been aware.
They had to be.
You don't get to that size of a corporation without having detailed statisticians and projectionists and people who are in the data department looking at these things. Like you should have that if you are a major company. I just, you can't go along and be like, again, even then, it's like, if this is supposed to be the first thing of James Gunn's DCU, then why are we having an Aquaman movie come out, which is purely Zack? Yes, it's not Zack Snyder who directed it, but it's an Aquaman who's part of the Snyderverse, even though it's James Wan. Like, and James Wan can say as much as he wants about, oh yeah, we're not part of anything. We are our solo thing. Fine. We've seen this Aquaman, and not only the Justice League movie, but also the last Flash movie and a cameo. So it's not going to really fly with a lot of people, that excuse, at least. I think they knew Blue Beetle wouldn't do well. It did better. If you really think about it, it did better than what the projections originally had it as.
Yeah, I think it's just so weird seeing the number so low for a superhero movie, and I think it's like it feels like it doesn't make sense. I don't remember what the budget was for Blue Beetle. Do either of you?
Over 100 million for sure.
Over 100. And it's crazy to think Shazam 2 failing makes sense to me. That movie, in my opinion, was truly unnecessary in terms of like tone. It was dumb. It was comedy that really, I don't want to say offensive, because I don't mean like offensive in that way. I mean just like to the casual moviegoer, it insults your intelligence. Blue Beetle's not that kind of movie, but this is going to do worse than Shazam 2. And that's a sign of, I think, DC fatigue, confusion, even revolt at the whole concept that we still have movies coming out regardless of the reset. The Flash, the question I would have had is, if the Flash doesn't come out, does Blue Beetle do better? Like, is the Flash to blame more so than just the confusion in the DC? Did the Flash do damage? Because I think people seeing that movie not do well maybe affected like psyche of, well, I'm not going to another DC movie right now. I don't know.
Maybe, but then we could say the same about Shazam, right? Like it's
true.
I don't know.
And then you got to go back to Black Adam and say, is The Rock the cause of all problems in the universe?
God, DC has some major. All right. Did you like this movie better than The Flash?
I actually think I liked The Flash better, but that's because I think the action scenes were better directed in The Flash. So
I'd agree too. Yeah, right. I would just even though I got limited Michael Keaton and Supergirl, I really liked Supergirl. Like I really liked that.
Like, I liked The Flash more than I like this. I like Blue Beetle, make no mistake. But again, the movie as a whole, no. But the family is cool. Like, I like the aspect of the family.
Right.
And I think they could have led and done maybe even a little bit more with that per se. But I also think the marketing, the after marketing, meaning the post release marketing, is not good either. Because what's the post release marketing? Everybody talking about how Latino it is, when in reality you
Mm,
should be talking about, if assuming you think it's a good movie, talk about the movie. When
right.
you start to bring in the culture aspect into it, it starts to become a little bit harder to really get people who might not have been on board to see it. And this isn't Black Panther, where Black Panther had the idea that people kind of knew that this was going to be a major character taking place. So you don't have that. Blue Beetle is a standalone thing. So I think
Yeah.
you need to focus on it. Yes, the movie's good. Talk about the movie. Talk about that stuff. And then add the Latino part on top of it. But don't make that your focal point when trying to broadcast to a wider demographic and audience, because they people may one take that incorrectly or take it a different way, or two decide it's not for them when in reality it can be.
That's the worst thing that any movie can do is if you start convincing people it's not for them, that's a problem. You should never be like in marketing, you shouldn't be saying this is
No.
not for you. It's kind of the genius of the Barbie advertising is regardless of what the movie was, they sold this idea that that movie's for everyone. Now people are saying it's not, like people reviewing it are saying like, oh, it's not for me. But the marketing sold that it was for everyone. And I mean, here they are. 1.3 billion now, passing Mario, which is crazy.
Yeah,
Also,
didn't think
same
it would.
company.
Yeah.
How is Warner Brothers capable of this? And then in DC, they go over here to Blue Beetle and like, let's lose a couple hundred million.
It is
That's
crazy.
terrible.
And you're right. If they, the one thing that everyone can relate to is family of some kind.
Yeah.
And then the fact that the family is Latino is second to that main theme of the film. I mean, it is there, but it's as far as selling and marketing goes. So in
Yeah.
that sense, it would be for everyone. I got to tell you, you brought up Barbie, and it's funny if you like go online, you'll see different articles talking about the box office this weekend, and some are like
Oh,
saying it
yeah.
topped Blue Beetle, like buzzed and topped knocked Barbie out of number one, and it's like Barbie's been out for like 6 weeks. Like, what? It's
Yeah.
not
It's
an
wordplay.
accomplishment.
That's the problem with access. I hate to say it. That's the problem with access media. They, having written for certain things before, like, wordplay is important, and you can say whatever you want, and it can be true as long as you put the words in the correct order, and that is true, right? There's going to be people who say Gran Turismo is when that has a wider release, there will be articles talking about how it's the perfect video game movie. Whether it is to some people or it isn't, just because you can put things in such a perfect order, and it's clickbait, yes, but it works.
Right.
But let's be honest, come on now. Barbie is Barbie. Blue Beetle is, forget Blue Beetle. Barbie is Barbie, and DC is,
Yeah. Not even comparable right now.
because Barbie has made more money than everything DC has this year.
And that's a problem that DC has become this joke. Like it's become like a bad joke at this point, which
Yeah.
is crazy when you look back on what their brand is in history. You're talking about Batman, like one of the most bankable characters of all time. And we've come to this point now where the confusion's not going to stop because you have the Batman coming out and Joker and a new James Gunn universe that we don't understand. So there's still, it goes round and round. I know one thing about life. Warner Brothers will continue to just be up, down, left, right. We don't know what's going on. Nothing ever changes with that company. And they do great stuff, but then they do stuff that makes you go, how are you $1 billion company? Like, what are you
What is
doing?
it? It's death, taxes, and Warner Brothers continuously failing at the box. Like, it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't. This is the Dark Knight, people. Like, this is the Nolan Batman version. This is movies that were doing well earlier, but yeah, I guess it has become that much of a joke. And at this point, you've had almost 2, if not 3 years of just a downward spiral. that this movie was never going to be able to overcome at all.
Yeah.
And that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, I think we all kind of figured it wouldn't do amazingly, but I think we were all kind of surprised that it did this poorly.
Right.
So
This is way worse than,
yeah. Well, I have to thank you both gentlemen for joining me again. We'll see what happens with the next weekend with Blue Beetle if it can, you know, grab a little bit more of an audience, but I find that's probably not going to be the case, but who knows? But so thanks everyone for watching, and thanks for stopping by.